Oh, hello there! It's time for Apple Bites, and today's special guest is Rob Multari. Multari?
Multari.
Multari. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, people always get it say it the other way.
I gotta admit, I'm surprised I was that close.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And of course, our pal Nate is down there, down below, bringing up the game. Oh my God! So, dude, I've been dying to have you on. I know we've tried to get this done a couple times. I'm happy we finally were able to do it, especially since your Kickstarter has like what 3 days left.
Yeah. 3 days ends on Thursday at midnight.
All right, so let's start this off right away and let the people know who you are, what you do, all the goody nitty gritty stuff. Give them the spiel.
Right on. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rob Multari. I'm the creator and writer of Night Wolf and the spin-off series Snowpaw. I'm a creator, writer, self-publisher through my imprint, Lone Wolf Comics. Night Wolf is a story about a young man who finds out that he's born a werewolf, gets thrown into a supernatural war against demons, witches, vampires, other werewolves. And Snowpaw is his mentor during his story during the modern times. And she has her own spin-off series called Snowpaw, and it takes place in the 19th century Scotland during her origin story.
All right, so it sounds to me like you've crafted yourself a little universe there.
Yeah. So I do have a lot of intertwining characters. I have other series that I have in the works, more closely to Night Wolf, that will eventually do a lot of crossover. Will have a kind of like world-ending event that they have to deal with. But it's not like they're going to be like an Avengers setup or anything like that because they really won't like each other.
Well, sometimes you just need to team up and get rid of the big baddie, and then you can go, eh.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, okay, we want to move on.
Shen says hi. Hey, Shen, how you doing?
Hello.
All right, so this stuff here, I gotta admit, like, dude, this is what caught my attention when besides the fact that I've been trying to get you on for about a year or so, I have to admit this stuff he just caught my attention.
Thank you. Yeah.
You did a great job with it. It doesn't look low class. It actually looks like a really cuddly little guy.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go, if I was going to do it, I wanted to go all in and have a great quality product. It originally came from a pinup art from a trade paperback by Megan Alford. And when, she put that little voodoo doll in there, I was like, that's an amazing touch. I love it. And then other people were like, oh, that's awesome. That would make a great stuffed animal. And I was like, that's actually a great idea. And I always ask my wolf pack, who is my audience, as I like to refer them to. Basically, I send out surveys and say, what do you want to see from me? What new things do you want, like for Kickstarters?
Right.
Rewards, stuff like that, and plushies, figures, stuff like that came up. And this was like the first foray that I have into doing toys, and like it came out, the prototype came out like really nice, and the quality of this thing is amazing. Yeah,
so you can show it off. Look at that. You're right. It does look way better than the picture.
No, yeah, the embroidery. I mean, it's like you can kind of see a little bit in the light there.
Look at the details, man.
Yeah, I mean, all over this thing has got like with the patches. It looks like the hand sewn look, but it's it's got a nice little squish to it.
Yeah, like I was saying in the green room, sometimes these little stuffies are so hard, and you're like, okay, that's not huggable. But this one looks really huggable.
Oh yeah, it's huggable. It's got a velveteen feel to it. It's real nice. Yeah, my daughter and my wife both are like, hey, when are we gonna get that?
That's a good thing when your own family is like, okay, are we getting some?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yeah, you got to work for it.
Come on, folks. You can't just have it like that. So this is one of the tiers that you have with the stuffy, right?
Yeah. So the image of the books there, it's a 5th anniversary collector's edition of issues 1 through 6 of Night Wolf, and connecting covers. They're limited to 200 print run. So that's the original print that Megan had done,
right?
With the plushie in it. He's kind of like pointing to himself.
Well, when you're proud of yourself, you got to point to yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
look at that.
yeah, that's my daughter playing with the voodoo doll.
Uh-huh. Dude, that just makes it even, look better because, okay, look how happy this kid is. If this thing was like really bad material, they wouldn't be happy. Oh, look at it. Dude, I really feel like you got something here. It's
Thank you.
really cute. It really becomes part of an interactive piece of the book itself.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I thought, being able to pull out something cool like that, that was like the first thing to do. Eventually, I want to kind of get into action figures and other kind of things. I do have like custom Legos done, um,
Ooh.
so like and there's all their add-ons from previous campaigns that I have. But yeah, I mean they're available through the campaign as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I know. I have a couple of friends that collect Legos, so they might. I'm gonna start sending it to. I'm like, dude, look at this.
I appreciate that.
It's like, hey Lou, check this out. And he's gonna be like, why you sent me another Kickstarter for, Ralph? Also, you're really like trying to like appeal to the broad base of geekdom. In other words,
Oh, yeah, I mean, for me, like I collect figures. I collect, like Legos I grew up with, and my kids have a ton of them. So I got to, have fun playing with them and building sets of them. So that was a cool thing to do, and it's just cool to see your figure as a Lego, right? Um,
exactly, dude.
yeah, it's fun to be able to play in more than just like the 2D realm, if you will.
True. And of course, you always one of the big things, especially when you're creating your comics, you want to see your comic become an action figure.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the next step. That's the next step.
Yeah. Or nowadays it's more like, oh, I want to see it as a pop. I'm like, I don't know, I like the action figure.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah. To me, I think the figures are cooler. Yeah. Funko Pops have their appeal, but
Yeah.
there's nothing better than like the action, the moving, the pieces.
Dude, the art is just beautiful, man.
Thank you.
It,
Yeah. So
it really stands out. It looks unique it looks unique.
thank you. Yeah. So the artist who does the illustrations, that's also he did this cover, and his name's Carlos Herrera, and he and I have been working together from the very beginning. He and I were like I gave him my original character designs, and he basically took them and made them so much better looking. And here we are now.
I love the palette, the colors. Usually when people go horror, they go into much darker tones, much redder tones.
Mm.
But I feel like you have this beautiful muted look.
Yeah, I think the style, definitely still has like a nice like darker tone to it, but it's not
Exactly.
like
Hmm.
yeah, but it's still it's kind of like has a nice haze to it, if you will, throughout a lot of the sequences there.
I think that adds to it because it gives you this feel of like it's everything's foggy. Which is always a good thing in a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
And you look at this. So you got a little bit of everything here to show off the book itself. You got each issue.
Yeah, so each issue I have a 3-page preview. That way, kind of give it similar to like what like if you're in a comic shop, you can flip through it a little bit.
Exactly. That's always a good thing because sometimes you don't know if you want the book or not, and you're like, okay, I don't know, man. Do I like the art? Because sometimes you'll see a beautiful cover, and then you're like, how's the art on the inside?
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly it. I want to make sure that people see what they're getting, and not just a pretty cover. Because oftentimes I do have a lot of variant covers, but I wanted to make sure that they see that like the pages on the inside are actually quality as well.
Oh, and this really looks good. Yeah, it really shows it off. What made you decide to go in this direction with your story, or what made the story come to mind?
So for me, like I've always been like a fan of like werewolves, and when I first started writing, I was like in my teens. I
Hmm.
was writing X-Men fan fiction because I was really big into X-Men, and Wolverine, and Chris Claremont was like one of my favorite
Oh, Chris
writers.
Claremont's the man. Yeah.
Very, very influential in my writing. So I think, for it started out as like a fan fiction, and then it turned into like I had sent my scripts and my character designs into Marvel, and of course I got a very kind rejection letter telling me, oh, we can't use your stuff, our storylines are so far in advance, but we encourage you to keep up the good work. And for a 13, 14-year old, like that's that lights a fire in your ass.
Oh, that definitely does.
Yeah. So for me, like a lot of the story, I took some of the characters, I re-evolved the story, and as I got older, they kind of matured with me. So like a lot of like things that like at the time that I knew about, and then just started writing, and it kind of as I got older, like I said, it kind of grew up with me, and to the point where like I think in 2013 is when I finished like the 12th issue for this. So that this is a 12 issue story arc. I had a lot of revisions like as I went through, but once the
Right.
12th issue was finished, that's when I was like, all right, well, I have a first season, if you will. Let's see what happens. And so a lot of it's just been like what I knew and experienced as like far as like what the high school life,
Right.
things like the main character, he starts off as like what I would have liked to have been in high school, the popular kid with the football scholarship, which believe me, that was not me. I was one of the awkward kids with the comic books, you
Oh,
know.
I know the feeling. Believe me, I know the feeling.
But yeah, so but the other caveat to that is that then I get to tear that away from him. Like when everything hits the fan, if you will, uh as far as like these supernatural creatures attacking his town.
True, very true. And I completely agree with you because I have characters that I started writing when I was 13 or 14, and they do evolve with you, they grow with you. And I find that as you become a different or better writer, depending on how you look at it, or you learn more on the writing process, it all changes into something else. Something that you thought was a great story back then, you go, hey, wow, maybe
Yeah,
this will be better, or this will be better.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny because like I remember writing like I was on vacation with my family, and I was an awkward teenager, so I like would have my headphones on and like be in the car writing in like my journal like the story that I was fleshing out. It's funny because the way that it went from that to like where it is today.
Oh, I completely understand. Like, yeah, I have notes of stuff that I wrote before. I have my first character, which was because I used to love reading detective stories, and I started off with Encyclopedia Brown, and this Sherlock Holmes and Nancy Drew, and that was all in my head, and I've created my own private eye, and as he stands, if I did him now from how he was then,
Mhm.
he would be a very uh pale imitation of anything. So I completely understand the process of evolving your writing.
Mhm. Yeah, and with Snowpaw, since it's a more recent series, it's a lot more like I've had to do like, and it's a historical piece too. So I've injected a lot of historical fantasy into it, and learning a lot about Scotland, a lot of the clans at the time, and all that stuff. Trying to figure out a lot of like how to keep it realistic within the time period, but also adding that fantasy element to it.
Oh, definitely. That's all important too, because you want to keep it in a place where, you know, I want it to be entertaining, but at the same time, you want to keep some historical basis onto it.
Yeah, exactly. The way I enjoy writing my series is that like it feels like it could actually happen, despite the fact that it's supernatural and fantasy stuff.
Oh, believe me, that's the same thing with me. Like, I find that everything I write will have a supernatural twist or tinge to it. It may
Mhm.
not be completely in there, but there's going to be some aspect of the supernatural that comes across. I don't think I've been able to put myself into one genre because I feel like I touch upon all of them,
Mhm.
and I like it that way. I don't want to be the sci-fi guy. I don't want to be the fantasy guy. I want to be the guy who does the fantasy, sci-fi, horror.
Yeah,
It's all
I
mixed
want, yeah.
together.
You want to cross boundaries.
Oh, definitely. And then when I first started, like I remember I showed somebody a character that I was working on.
Oh, I think he froze.
Oh, yep, he froze. This happens from time to time. So, what to you has been sort of your biggest inspiration in terms of writing these stories?
One
So
of
I
my earlier books, and the character had tech.
Oh, he doesn't even know he's been gone.
no, he doesn't.
Don't worry, we'll fill him in. You just just add to it.
I mean, it's funny. Yeah, the volume came back, but the picture's still stuck.
Yeah, he's gonna be like this for at least 15 minutes.
Yeah. So, biggest influence, I think, definitely it was Chris Claremont was the main influence doing it. Just the I've always, like I said, I love the X-Men. I love Wolverine. Wolverine's one of my favorite characters. So I think his kind of like feral nature, yet being was a lot of like that for me. That kind of like I wanted to have a character, but I wanted to do it with like I wanted a werewolf who was able to control himself, change back and forth. I think
Yeah,
a lot of like kind of like where that was coming from when I first started this series way back in the day. And I think aesthetically, with my werewolves, the biggest influence, I kind of had an idea what I wanted them to look like, but really hit home and solidified what I wanted them to look like was Werewolf the Apocalypse, which was a gaming book,
okay.
kind of like D&D style, but with werewolves, and like because I always thought werewolves should look more kind of like with the wolf's head, the paw, the pads on the the
Okay,
paw,
yeah.
but like still have like human nature, be able to carry a sword or a weapon, stuff like that. So it was more like kind of like a 60-30, whereas like, if you look most werewolf movies or the Wolf Man look more like a dude with fur, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
Like,
I wanted to go away from that completely and do more like, wolf like.
yeah.
But not like I didn't want to have giant wolves, you know?
Yeah, you didn't wanna go, like, full fur, you wanted to go, like, somewhere in between, right?
Exactly, yeah, a nice mix.
Yeah. No, I get that, I get that. I mean, I'm still trying to because just from the way how you're describing how you saw it very early on, there was, like, a lot of evolution in sort of the process, so, like, how would you describe it how would you describe how it was back then to how it is now? Like, how would you feel that evolution took place?
You could definitely tell from the character designs that I originally did, like, look like a 13-year-old did it. I now even like my art at the peak of its creativity and how
You haven't reached your peak yet. Don't worry. Don't
yeah,
sell
well,
yourself
that's
so
like
short.
I'm not the artist anymore, so like I'm just doing the writing and I do the lettering and stuff. But like when I haven't like actively drawn anything in years. Just like I said, the original character designs, which at one point I think got decent enough, but I was like, I know this isn't going to be what I want to see because for me, if I was going to put something out there, just like the plush, like I'm going to go all in. I want to make it look like something that I, as a fan, would buy. Like I want to see like DC Marvel quality, image quality, like art. So I traveled all across the internet looking, for the aesthetic that I was trying to get. So yeah,
Okay.
it went from looking like the 13-year-old drawing it to a master illustrator.
Yeah. Think he might be back considering how he's scrolling around.
There he is.
Yeah, something happened back here. I
Something
lost,
happened just when you were taking off your camera.
dude, man. It was an interesting moment. I thought the computer was going to shut down completely,
Oh no.
but it didn't do that.
Remember,
You
everyone,
guys are
one
doing pretty good,
subscribe
though.
button is $1 Ralph gets towards his PC.
Yeah. Sooner or later, this thing's going to die on me, and I know.
Technology, gotta keep
You
up
guys
with
are
it.
doing pretty good anyway, so. I love what you put together. It looks really good. It's really thought out. I can tell that you have this whole idea of a universe that you're working on.
Mhm.
So and sometimes that doesn't come across in certain comics.
Right.
Because I feel like the writer, instead of going with the broad story, they start working on the smaller story, and they kind of forget the world.
I think for me, I actually started with the world first. When I took the characters and reworked them, I opened up to say, okay, well, if I'm going to start instead of being in like an existing one, I need to create my own. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what kind of like mythology I wanted, theology, kind of like a combination of things, and I built that around the characters that I was going to be putting out, and wanted to like show that it was a shared universe, as well as kind of like, okay, now I have this world they live in. How do they interact with it? And it's been a building. So with Night Wolf, it's more of a build up. Whereas Snowpaw, after the first issue, it's wide open. You're like, holy crap, there's all this stuff going on, which was nice because like I said, with Night Wolf, it's a slow build.
Right.
And Snowpaw being the more recent issues that I've put out, I'm able to open it up more to like what my world is, especially like in the past, so you can see that, why, from it, when you get to point A to point, M, which is, let's say, Snowpaw is A, 200 years in the past. Point M is the beginning of Night Wolf. When they come together, I have 200 years to play with, and it kind of will show like why these fantasy creatures and supernatural creatures aren't as apparent as they were prior into the past. And it kind of, I have reasons for it, and I want to play with it as I can.
Well, that's the good thing. That means that you know your story, you know where you're going, you have an idea of what's going on. That's all really important, especially when you're crafting a story, when you're building the journey,
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you're having a bigger picture of what you're doing instead of just slapping it and seeing what, throwing crap against the wall and seeing what sticks, right?
Exactly. I don't know. I think today we'll try some Ghost. But I think you're doing a pretty good job. It looks really good.
Thank you.
It's well put together. We've seen some Kickstarters that you sit there and going, okay, where's the rest of it? But it looks like you got an idea where you're going. You are building this universe. You know the story. You just want to get it out there to the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and issue 7 is going to be coming out this spring. So this was a nice, like, right before, while the team is working on the book, a little bit something to try different.
Right.
While we're doing it.
And who doesn't like a great werewolf or supernatural book? Vampires, werewolves. We all love it. We all grew up with the stuff. Remember the Universal monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, and it's funny because you as much as popular as they are, you really don't see a lot of the werewolf type books in the comics.
And that's another reason why I wanted to go with my werewolf book first. I have other, I have like a super soldier book. I have, Mystic Arts kind of book. I have, a fallen angel kind of book. But I wanted to go with my werewolf book first because the reason I started writing it is that there wasn't any books out there at the time, that had werewolves or werewolves that I thought was the aesthetic that I was looking for. So I was like, screw it, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it myself.
That's sometimes what you got to do. You got to just like, okay, that's it, man. I don't see it. I'm gonna do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I saw before that you were actually partnered up with some people to get their books out there as you get to certain tiers.
You mean yeah. So if as I unlock things, I share other books from other creators that we'll do a book swap. I'll give them my first issue, they'll give me theirs.
Nice.
That way, kind of like it's not, they're not just getting one story, they're getting another story or several stories in this case.
Yeah.
And it's nice too because then we're helping each other out, we're spreading each other the word, and these are stories that like I know that are good, and that other people should be reading. Helping indies, being able to help each other, I think, is a big thing. Being a part of the community definitely makes a difference, and it's paying it forward and being able to work with each other, I think, is how we are able to move forward.
We completely get you here. One of the things we like to say here at Bitten Apple is let's raise each other up, because it's easier to raise or rise if we're all helping each other, because we can lean on each other.
Exactly. Right.
You know, and it's one of the reasons why we like putting everybody on, Apple Bites, or the written writ, is so they can showcase their stuff and show the audience out there, some of the stuff they're missing, because a lot of the audience likes to stay with the same two Marvel and DC type of things,
Right.
and then they all get all upset that Marvel and DC aren't doing what they want them to do, but yeah, they won't look at an independent book.
Yeah, that for me, like, I haven't picked up a Marvel or a DC book in years.
Same here.
And I used to be die hard, like, I loved them, and then it just got to the point where I'm like, everything's just rehashed and beat to death, and I'm like, okay, well, so I started checking out some of my fellow indies, before I started, producing, and then, just when I really got into the community, I found a plethora of amazing books, and I haven't looked back since.
That's the way to do it. and it's funny. So have you been hitting the Comic-Con mark? Going to the Comic-Cons?
Yeah. So, a matter of fact, my first issue. So when I first went to Kickstarter back in 2016, I set my goal way too high because I was naive, and and I really, like, I still believe in my book, but back then, I was like, oh yeah, it'll fund on its own. I don't need to bring anybody.
Wow.
That's back in 2016. I didn't know how everything worked. I just thought you put your stuff on Kickstarter and people will find it, right?
Exactly.
But that's not how it works.
No.
Kickstarter is the venue, and this is the wedding. You need to invite the guests. You know what I mean? So that's basically, how, it comes down to. You just have to, you have to have an audience. And so after my first failed Kickstarter that I set for issues 1 through 3, because I was like, all right, well, I'm going to kickstart the series. But it didn't happen. So I would have had enough if I would have just gone for issue 1 at the time. But, you live, you learn. So I ended up doing all the printing and stuff myself through freelance web design work. I paid for the rest of the art for the issue 1. And then
Right.
I, sent out for the printing. When I got the books in, I was like, all right, well, now what do I do with this? Right. I'm like, I didn't sell any through Kickstarter because it failed. And then I have nowhere to sell this online yet.
Right.
So I went to my local Comic-Con, which is about an hour and a half away near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I took 100 books with me. I got an artist alley table, sold out. I think I sold 96 copies of the 100 that I took with me.
Nice.
And I was like, I think we got something here. So I called my wife and we talked it over, and we decided to dip in our savings for issue 2. And then I made up the rest with other freelance jobs and got that out. And finally I was like, okay, well, I'm traveling the con circuits within like a 10-hour radius. I'm driving, all these different con places.
Trying to build that following. Yeah.
Exactly. And then like issue 3 was like, it got to the point where I'm like, people were asking for issue 3 because I leave my books off of a cliffhanger, and the people who got issue 1 and 2 were like, hey, when's the next one coming out? So, and we had no savings left to dip into. So,
right.
And like freelance jobs are few and far between.
They are.
Sometimes, and I didn't want to wait a whole nother year. So that's when we ended up going, and I decided to give Kickstarter another try. So I had issues 1 through 3, set it at a much more reasonable funding goal. And then we overfunded, believe it or not.
I expected it, because now you got the following. You got people who already want the 3rd book. So then they're going to be like, okay, we're going to support this because we want that book.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where we went from there. And it's been snowballing ever since. And here we are, issue 6, and 7's about to come out.
And it's funny because, another reason why I went looking for you was because there was a lot of people praising you and your book.
Oh, well, thank you.
I wanted to make sure you knew that, because sometimes we don't know that there's other stuff happening in the background.
Oh, right on. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had no idea that people were referring me.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Which I appreciate very much so, because word of mouth is the best way to get more books out and for people to enjoy.
And that's a great segue there, because we always like to talk about the fact that if you can't support a Kickstarter, if you can't put money into it, sometimes one of the best things to do is just share it out there, because maybe you can't do anything. Maybe another person that might be able to support the Kickstarter and get it to where it needs to go. It's so important to actually spread the word, to put the Kickstarter out there, to get it into as many eyes as possible, because that's how these things get funded. And of course, we like to say that a lot because sometimes I feel like people aren't listening.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, if you can't afford it, there's always another one. If you share it out, there's a chance one of your friends might be interested and they might back this time and let you borrow the book.
That's
So
true
then
too.
you can see if you
Like
like
the old days of comic books.
exactly. So then you both get to enjoy it, and then the next time around, you both can come back.
I see. You know Henri.
Yes, yeah. Henri and I. So he's actually sold some of my books on his show. We did a live signing together.
Oh,
And
cool.
I've met him at a couple cons, so we've been able to hang out a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, we know Henri here for a while now. We've been interviewing him since I forgot which Comic-Con it was. I think it might have been our first Comic-Con that we started as Bit and Apple.
Okay.
Yeah. His book's amazing.
Oh yeah. He knows how to like talk about it too. Like,
definitely, he's a salesman, man.
He does with
Oh, that's why we always like going to him. Every time we see him at a con, he goes, "Hey, go, let's do the video." Because he gets into it. Woo.
Oh yeah, I mean, that guy can talk and talk and talk. But yeah, no, he's fun, and I can't wait to do another con with him again.
Speaking of covers, because we were talking about it earlier, and I know I mentioned them because you have such beautiful covers.
What's that?
I said, since we were speaking about the covers, I mentioned them on purpose because I wanted to showcase how the art inside was as good as how beautiful your covers are.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And like I said, with Night Wolf, Carlos does a lot of the cover art as well as the inside illustrations. Mm-hmm. And then the other one for Snowpaw is done by Mog Park. She's actually done.
Oh, we know her. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So she's done work for Game of Thrones. So I was like super stoked that she was like agreed to do this with me.
Her art is beautiful, man.
Oh, so good.
Dude, you really got something here. I'm hoping and wishing, and I know you will, because you still got 3 days to go, and I already know that there's people going, I'll get it in the last minute.
Yeah, that last minute 48-hour notice that Kickstarter will give you.
The one that gives you a heart attack.
Yeah.
Oh, it always bugs me out when people are like, oh, I'll just like support it in the last 48 hours because that way whatever. And I keep like I was telling you in the green room, we always tell people, dude, they don't take the money out of your account until the book is funded, so you can support the book, and then until the book is funded, they won't take the money. Mm-hmm. So go support the book. So and then even after the fact, you can always figure out, well, do I have the money? Do I have the money?
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter gives you that 7 days to fix it. And
exactly.
After that, I do Backer Kit, so Backer Kit gives you a second chance.
Exactly.
Is that a third chance at that point?
The way Backer Kit is, I think it's a third and fourth chance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll keep telling you like, hey.
I know there's been times where I haven't been paying attention, and then they're like, hey, hello, pay attention, and it's way past 7 days.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so folks, support your books. There's ways to fix it at the end, ways to find the money at the end. Even if, dude, sometimes just pledging $1 will helps all this stuff out. You don't know how much it helps this stuff out because it's still money.
Well, the backer count too, like
exactly.
Like the more people who back it, the more the Kickstarter's like, oh, this is getting attention. We'll give it attention.
Mm-hmm. And people, because I know people have gone like, well, what does it matter? I'm like, well, that's because they're paying attention to this. They're paying attention to how many people are looking at this, how many people are buying this book, how many people are interested in this. Of course, like everything in life, the more attention something has, the better it is.
Oh yeah.
I guess for gossip instead of gossip. Yeah, except for gossip.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, I just can't get over how the stuff alone looks fantastic. When you showed it to me in the green room, I was like, oh, that looks way better than the picture here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, it's the detail on this thing is amazing, and up close and it's so cool.
And here's the other swag.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't like a nice hoodie And I see why you like this piece of art right here. It's really cute and it shows the girls off.
Well, but it's like elegantly done as well.
Oh yeah, it's well done. It is not crass at all. All this stuff looks really beautiful, and there's more of an art to it than anything else. So, and it looks really fantasy.
Thank you.
Look at these. Come on, guys, look at these, man. Oh, here we go. Creator Kickstarter consulting tier. I've seen a couple of these.
Yeah, this is my first time trying it out. I have seen other creators do it, and I thought, hey, you know what? Why not see, if people are interested? Because I do have a lot of knowledge within my, 9 Kickstarters that I've done, including the one that I definitely learned from.
Without giving everything away, so they actually have to buy the tier. What do they get if they do this tier?
Yeah, so if they do this tier, they get the plush, they get all the connecting covers, the digital copies, as well as 2 1-hour sessions with me through like a Zoom or StreamYard or whatever.
Right.
And basically, the first session is getting to know their project, kind of walking through like what they have so far with their Kickstarter page, and I'll give them like some. I'll give some professional critiques, some things that might be able to help their page, help the book if they are, depending on how far they are in the development of that, as well as building an audience. And then I give them actionable points, for the next one, for them to make those points for the next session. And then after they make those changes, we get back together, kind of go through to a fine tooth tone or fine to or comb to
comb, yeah.
Getting tongue tied.
I feel you. I get tongue tied all the time.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of going through that and getting more into detail. Doing a little bit of a bit of audience building with emails and social media planning for the campaign and how to keep interacting throughout the campaign and what to do to kind of get yourself through the dead zone, right, without driving yourself nuts.
Which is one of the important things, because like we were talking about in the green room, which is another one of the things with Kickstarters, is that you got that strong beginning and then that fantastic ending that gives you a heart attack. But then in the middle, you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. But there's ways to keep yourself busy and to keep promoting and keep trying, and fun little game things you could do. Like if you have multiple variant covers, something in the middle of the campaign, you can do an update and say, hey, which is your favorite variant cover? And then let them comment on your update, so it's a fun interactive piece for the backers who enjoy doing that. And, the more you do it, the more they interact with it as well.
And it's a good thing too, because then if the interactions are happening on your Facebook, your Instagram, wherever it is happening, it's actually putting more interest out there or putting more stuff out there, because somebody else could happen upon this and go, oh, what's this?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that feeds into the algorithm and it keeps things moving.
Which is important, because I know some people like sit there and go, nothing's happening.
They look at their phone. Oh,
exactly. That's actually a smart way to do things. Keep it moving forward, keep people active on it. Because there's this whole dead zone, and what ends up happening, and this is it just disappears, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to keep up. You got to keep beating the drum. Sometimes it takes somebody 100 times seeing it before they actually do something.
Ooh, a mystery box. We like mystery boxes here.
Oh yeah.
So I'm guessing you're putting something in the. Oh yeah, there it goes.
So the main thing in the mystery box is it's a mystery CGC. It's either going to be a Night Wolf or a Snowpaw, random issue, anywhere between a 9.4 and a 9.8. And then you also get mystery high-end variants of Night Wolf and Snowpaw. Okay, want to see that again?
Yeah, you can shut it off. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a mystery one of these, and then some mystery issues of the issues.
All right. So since you put it up, I'm not a big man on comic coffins. What do you think about the whole thing?
I think for the most part, it's mostly for collectors, for sure. I personally don't go out of my way to find them. Um, I have a couple, like I have the Wolverine miniseries by Frank Miller and Claremont, like way from back in the day, and
Right.
I have them signed by both of them. So I thought about getting them CGC, but then I was like, well, is it really worth the money, or should I just put them in like frames and actually put them in like a glass frame so like I can display them on my wall? For me, there it's not only is it that it's a collector's piece, but it's also for me. I'm not planning on selling them, so I
Right.
think a lot of it is if you plan on reselling them, that might be more so. But yeah, a lot of people like them. A lot of people like will get slab just to have the slab. So I mean, I have them available if you're interested in them. I have them signed. There's a couple that are signed by me and the artists.
Cool.
So there's I have a variety pack, and so that's that. Thus the mystery box.
There you go. The good thing too is, especially as indie creators, it kind of brings your book up to a certain level because I've seen indie books and they'll be selling for ludicrous prices because they're in those beautiful boxes.
Well, that and it's being in a CGC too. Like it also. If you have them on your tables, like at a Comic Con, people walking by be like, "Oh, well, what's this?"
Exactly.
Like so. They're also nice, like visual pieces to bring towards
They
your
are.
table.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also display in different means. Whereas, like if you have like a rack of things, you can't see the entire cover. But here you go, you have these nice displayed CGCs.
Yeah, because with me, it's always the same thing. Like I like touching my books. I like look, like
Mhm.
like if you like you were saying, if I was gonna put it on the wall, I definitely would do something like that because
Mhm.
then it's protected. But then with me, I want to be able to look at my book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I've been a reader, reading comics since I was a kid, and believe me, a lot of them are loved, and I would never get them graded. Like so. If anything, with my copies would make the other copies more valuable.
Look at this one, man. This is well loved. Oh my god, yeah. Comic books are a beautiful thing. I feel like it's kind of lost some of its luster and love, from what it used to be. And now everything seems to be about the money or
The IPs, the
yeah,
movies.
exactly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
before it was like, oh, that was a great story. Like, you're talking Claremont, oh my God. And those books were just amazing. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. And you were saying that you were doing fan art, I mean, fan
Fan fiction.
storylines with it,
Yep.
fan fiction with it.
Yep.
So, what was it that you wanted to do that wasn't done in the
So
X-Men run?
they I was always like enjoying like the crossovers that they had back then before they
Mhm.
overdid them.
That's true.
And so I wanted to have my own kind of crossover, but I also wanted to make a whole new team of my own characters because I didn't want to just write just the characters that were existing. I wanted to come up with
Exactly.
my own new team of characters that that they didn't have out there before. I wanted to make some newer mutants, and then I was this was during the time when Wolverine lost his adamantium.
Oh, I
And
remember.
so
Yeah.
at that point, I was very like, okay, it's been years now. When are you going to put this back in there? So that was something that I included in this was how Wolverine got his adamantium back. So that was kind of like where a lot of it came from for me. It was like, hey, I want this. I'm going to try and get this.
Oh, I completely agree with you. Like I remember myself having my own fan fiction when I was reading the X-Men and going, wait, we can do this and we can do that. And I loved Claremont because he really got into the nitty-gritty of things. He had some excellent stories. I'm kind of upset that certain things that he wanted to do never got done.
Well, I think that too. Yeah, they moved him to a different project, and then
Yeah,
like whoever took over, like his plans were laid out and then didn't come to fruition. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Well, I mean, what are you gonna do though?
But it's funny though because when you talk to Claremont, he goes, "I don't remember what I was doing,"
Well,
and you're like, "But I want to know what you were up to. Where
he's
was
like,
the story going?"
that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, because I've run into him a couple conventions, and I'll hear the questions because everybody wants to know what was his final goal, where was he going? Because they're enamored so much with his run.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, you don't see that with a lot of the writers for
No.
X-Men, you know, as much. Like he was almost like a revitalization, you
Yeah.
know, period for him.
Well, it was because of him that X-Men became what it was, because
Mhm.
you know it was a good book, and then it fell apart, and then they did repeats, and then they came back with 94, and they did this whole all new, all different,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you're like, oh, this is fantastic. You know, but you're like, before that, nobody even paid attention to the mutants in the X.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it was just like a bunch of repeats for a long
Yeah,
time,
yeah, it was mostly yeah. People were like mostly into Spider-Man, the Hulk, and you know, Fantastic Four at the time.
which is so funny because it's like a total 360.
Mhm.
Now it's all about the mutants. It's all about the mutant world, you know, which is funny because then when the MCU came out,
Yeah, it totally
yeah, we don't have the rights to the mutants, so we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, that like that the movies did revitalize like the Avengers.
It did.
That's no question. You know, I think you know, with the X-Men, I would love to see what they could do with it, but in the same sense, it's like, you know, it's been done. What are you gonna do? You know, but you know, we just have to wait and see, I guess. But that's, you know, I feel like if Claremont would have made his own characters, did what he wanted to do, you know, outside of the Marvel universe, I think we would have been able to see more of like where he was going with everything.
That is true.
And he had nobody to tell him nothing. He just did it. You know, that's the beauty of being an independent. You know, like for me, you know, I being a self publisher, I do what I want, and I make sure that like the story has its you know, that big picture, and I'm working towards that goal, and nobody's going to come in and tell me no.
But it's funny because after the 80s and 90s, I feel like Marvel and DC said we can't have this anymore. We can't have star writers and star artists. They can't be the reason why people are buying our books, because you know they leave, and
Yeah,
then it became
yeah, then
more
they
about
go
the
to
characters. Yeah,
Image.
yeah, and they got scared of Image because then you know all these creators went to Image and did their own thing and started making buku money. And I know Marvel and DC must have been like, we made these guys.
Well, I mean, maybe if Marvel and DC would have treated them like the stars that they were.
Exactly. But see, it's so funny now because if you look at the industry the way it is now, they try to make sure that you don't have these star writers and star artists
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want it to be about them anymore.
Mm-hmm. What can you do? You know.
That's why I tell people all the time, dude, buy indie, support Night Wolf, support stuff like this because it gets them to look at their stuff and go, I think we need to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, when you know, like I feel like we're in a golden age for indies. Like,
Oh,
you
definitely.
know, and if the big ones aren't looking, then they're blind.
Oh, definitely. And all these, and oh, dude, I've seen such amazing indies out there, you know. And the more we do the Bit and Apple, the more you see amazing art, amazing stories, amazing books, and you sit there going, why aren't people like really supporting these things? Why aren't they like out there buying these things? You know, they keep complaining, and like I said in the beginning of the show, they keep complaining about Marvel and DC, but yet they keep buying Marvel and DC instead of like going, well, let's check out these indie books and see how they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, change comes about, and you know, the revolution, right? The revolution
Exactly.
in the indies.
Oh, I hate that. I want a good story. Well, buy this book. That's an
Exactly.
indie book.
So I've never heard of that character. So now you have.
Exactly.
I'm like, here, take a look. Yeah, I mean that's part of like, you know, when you're at cons, you know, I like to put the books in people's hands. I'm like, look,
Exactly.
I'm like, hey, it may not be for you, it may be for you. You'll never know unless you take a gander at the pages, and then when they look and they're like, oh, this art's amazing. You know, not indie books aren't just you know trash. They're good books. They're
Yeah,
actually good stories, and a lot of people are putting out a lot of great things out there, and it doesn't have you know to be a Marvel or DC book.
I completely agree. And it's funny that you went right to where I was going because I feel like the conventions actually allow you guys, and I think that's why you guys do better in the conventions, is because people can see it, people can feel it, people can look at it. And I've heard a bunch of indie creators tell me the same thing where they do well in the conventions, but it's hard work because you got to go from convention to convention trying to get your book out there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we got to pack up, you know, like a car full of stuff. and then set it up, and then at the end of the day, you got to do it all again. So then, and if you do like every weekend, like I'm only like a once a month person, because I also have a full-time job and family. My wife would
I
skin
know.
me alive if I was gone every weekend. But like, for the people who are doing this every weekend, every like sometimes more than
Yeah.
twice, because there are some people who are just jumping and jumping and jumping, just going.
I don't
It's
know how they do it.
honestly, I don't either. I knew a guy who he slept in his car during a con season.
Wow.
He was from like Washington State, and he traveled all the way across the country and back. I was like, that's dedication.
That is dedication, and you see it like we see it at the cons. We see people that are con people who they go from con to con, selling their wares, selling their books, and we do one or two cons and we're already exhausted. So I don't know how people can like do con after con after con.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I need that month to recover from, like, until the next one. Then I'm excited to go again. And at the end, I'm like, okay, I'm tired. Do I have to drive home?
Because I know like a 1 day con is already bad enough. 2 day con you're exhausted. 3 days you're like dead by the third day. As soon as you get into a 4 day con like New York Comic Con,
Yeah.
by Sunday you're like,
yeah. Then and if you're like so far away and you got to drive like then back on Monday, you're like you're behind the wheel.
exactly. Yeah, because I don't think people like understand all the stuff, the processes they go into, like going to the conventions, getting their books to into these hands, because it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's still it's good to get your name out there, get your books
Exactly.
name out there, and that's again building the audience. That's building your audience or your community. That's where networking, everything, and there's so much you can benefit from doing it.
That's what I tell people all the time. Like sometimes you got to look at your local shows because it gets you into a different type of audience. It's a different type of hand. Also gets you into a place where, your competition isn't as big as going to one of the bigger conventions.
Right. Yeah.
And you're also supporting the smaller conventions, which actually get other people and artists out there because, sometimes, as a creator, you can only hit these smaller conventions.
Yeah, and it's just like having it's just like indies, like supporting the smaller cons that'll eventually grow into the bigger cons. You want to be able to help them grow and flourish.
Exactly. And I also feel like because it's a whole process. We know this. It takes a bunch of things to get things to where they are. And then the local comic stores, you got to support them because they're the ones pulling some of these indies into their stores. And sometimes they're taking risks to do this.
Yeah.
To get some of these books in there. And if you're not supporting your local comic store, then they're gone. And then, there's another place where you can't get your books.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we, growing up, like going to the local comic shops or off the racks, that's like how we got into it. You gotta pay it forward for them too and keep them going. And that's why I offer like, retailer tiers for my books that, if that way they can get their books at like half the cost so that they can do more, put them out there and have less risk.
Totally. And I like the fact that the comic shops are stepping up as well, because now it's become more than just a comic shop. It's a community comic shop.
Yeah.
Where there's other things happening at the comic shop to get people in, to get kids in, to show kids what comics are, to bring in writers and artists, to the comic book store itself, so to show them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that
it shows the kids that like people are actually making these things.
Exactly. And I've seen a couple of comic shops have these places where bring your kids and we'll have them make their own comics.
Yeah, those kind of workshops, like bringing in the community, that like helps, and for those of you who aren't, like retailers out there who aren't doing it, might want to think about it.
Exactly. The world's changed, buddies. We need to like change with it. So speaking of cons and comic shops, are you gonna hit up anything anytime soon? What's your plan for the year?
Right on. So I'm still filling my schedule, but my next one is next week. So it's a week from Thursday. I'll be leaving.
Right.
For Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Ooh, Chattanooga.
And it's called Con-Nooga, and it's a small.
I like the name. I said I like the name Con-Nooga.
And so yeah, they invited me to come down, and I'm going to do some panels, and I'll be there for the whole weekend, and then it's a 10-hour drive there. So like I said, I'll be leaving Thursday. The show's on Friday, goes through the weekend on Sunday, and then I'll be driving back on Monday. And March I have Cleveland Fan Expo.
Oh, Cleveland Fan Expo is a pretty good one, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's an hour and a half for me, so that's one of my local, if you will. And then from there, I sign up for Motor City Con in Detroit. I guess in Novi. But I'm waiting to hear back if I got into it, because you have to apply to that one every year. So that's a maybe in May. April, I was going to do my usual one near Pittsburgh, but they do it 3 times a year, and if you don't re-up for all 3 shows,
I got you,
then you lose your spot. So I have to reapply for that, and I'm on a waiting list. So I doubt at this point I'll probably get into that one. But let's see, what else do I got? I have one in Akron, Ohio in November. I think I'm missing one, but I'm going to try to get in Erie's, like Erie, Pennsylvania's. They should be setting up for theirs pretty soon for September. Just at this point, just kind of filling up the schedule for the summer and all that.
That's already a lot of cons.
Yeah. And there's one a very small one, Youngstown Comic Con, is a 2-day one that I'll be doing in July.
That's a good schedule. Now you heard them, folks. So you go check them out at one of these cons if they're near you, or if you're going to travel to a con. There you go. Now you know where to go. So now, we know where the Kickstarter is. So where can they find you online? Where can they, all the good stuff?
Yeah. So my website is lonewolfcomics.com. You can find Lone Wolf Comics at Lone Wolf Comics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find me personally at Rob Multari, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then, a quick way to get to the Kickstarter is lonewolfcomics.com/plushie. That'll take you to that very long Kickstarter link.
Yeah, some of those Kickstarter links are long as hell. Here's your website, and it's beautiful. You guys should go check it out. It's some nice stuff there. And yeah, you keep following them up, because they're doing pretty well. Let's see where the Kickstarter is right now. Share screen. Kickstarter Night Wolf. There we go. And I'm gonna blur you people up. And there we go. They are at 8,070, 114 backers. 3 days to go, dude. We can get them to 10,000. We can get them over 10,000. Come on, like we like to say here at the Bitten Apple, you want to get them over, because nobody's making any money off of Kickstarter. Nobody's making a profit.
This is very true.
All this money is going right back into the book, so they can give you more books. So I always like to tell people, try to get them at least double their money. That way they have a nice cushion. And this gives them a chance to do things that, and that's for us usually, because, it's to get the books to us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the more stuff we unlock and stretch goals, the more stuff you get.
Totally. And who doesn't want that cute little stuffy? Might as well show off your video here, but I think the video will just say some more of what we said. But here we go. Let's see if it actually plays, because my computer is already giving me trouble.
Do you or your children love cuddly plush toys inspired by supernatural beings like werewolves? Then the Night Wolf voodoo doll is the perfect plush toy for you. This cuddly velveteen werewolf pup is a great snuggle buddy for you or your little ones all through the night. Hi, I'm Robert A. Multari, and I'm the creator and writer of Night Wolf and the new series Snowpaw. It's been my dream since I was a kid struggling with attention deficit disorder and dyslexia to become a comic book creator, because comics have helped me learn to overcome my learning disabilities. For the past 5 years, I've had the pleasure of self-publishing Night Wolf 1 through 6, as well as Snowpaw 1 and 2, with the help of my backers, who I refer to as my Wolf Pack. Now I stand ready to produce my first plush toy inspired by my character, Night Wolf. That's why I've come back to pay for the production and the rewards that you will receive for backing this project. Also available during this campaign are brand new connecting covers of the first 6 issues of Night Wolf, in honor of the 5th anniversary of Night Wolf #1 being published. What's Night Wolf about?
Beautiful.
Born into an outcast breed of werewolves known as the Monokai, 18-year-old Rodney Marcelli is reluctantly thrown into an ancient war between good and evil in today's world where the line has been blurred. With the help of Snowpaw, the pureblood Monokai, and the supernatural evil slayer Night Hunter, Rod must learn to master his newly found lycanthropy and mysterious kinetic energy power that only he possesses. Rod must fight the Dark Covenant in order to avenge his friends, family, and to save the girl he loves from the master vampire, Lord Malice. Rodney Marcelli is Night Wolf. I'd like to personally thank you in advance for backing this project and joining the Wolf Pack. I'm extremely grateful for where I am now as a self-publisher and continuing to serialize new comic books for you to enjoy. There's no risk in backing this project since the Night Wolf issues 1 through 6 are already published and this plushie is production ready. Again, thank you for taking this creative journey with me. I appreciate it so much. So what are you waiting for? Join the Wolf Pack today.
That was cool.
I couldn't help but crack up myself after I did that. Like I cut that off right at the end, but like I
can see why.
That was like ad-lib too, because like I didn't really plan to do it that way, but I was like, well, I have it in my hand. I almost had like a Hulk Hogan kind of a.
Oh yeah, that'd have been great, dude. The video brings up a lot of important things because I always tell people all the time that one of the reasons I became literate as I've become is because of comic books. Comic books open up the world of reading when I didn't want to read, or I was reading a little but not that much. So especially reading Fantastic Four at the age I was reading it, because if you remember, Fantastic Four was all about nuclear powered fission, this and that.
Oh yeah, exactly. It was.
And you sitting there going, I don't know what they're talking about, but I like it.
This side stuff is cool.
Exactly. And of course, that led to going to go look for definitions of, because you want to know what the hell they're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, expand your vocabulary.
And I like the fact that because I have the ADHD as well. This comics are important. They actually are a good way to step forward to get things done, to learn in a way that's more visual.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for me, like the trick was, looking at the word bubbles, which was like a small chunk at a time, rather than like, if you take a book, there's all these words in this giant word block that just look like
Oh, I know. I've had a book I open up and I'll be like, I don't know.
give me a week. Hold on.
Exactly. Especially like you're like, what's that?
Oh man, yeah, exactly. I mean, even to like this day, if like at work, if somebody sends like a huge email, I'm like, nope, I'm not reading that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, because I do it all the time. I'll be sitting here going, I'm
like, they'll give me the gist of it in the meeting.
Exactly. I completely understand what you're saying. All right, folks. As usual, we'll show off a couple things here tonight. We have starting off with a couple of other Kickstarters that are going on right now. I think the Dynamics by Philip Russert is coming to its close. I think it has 4 days left, if I remember right. Let's see. And of course, if you guys like 80s superhero fare, this is like classic superhero stuff, classic family superhero stuff. They are funded. They are 2,871, 60 backers, 3 days to go. I can't tell you guys enough. This is a great book. You should pick it up. It's a great story. Phil's a good writer. He does a good job at crafting stories. And the family dynamics, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, the family dynamics in this book are great, and it's a book that you can actually enjoy with your kids. Like the old days in the 80s when anybody could read a comic. So check out the Dynamics. Do yourself a favor. Let's see. What else is in here? Of course, Pocus Hocus. All right. Put it up here. Pocus Hocus is fantastic. Who doesn't love a nice supernatural type book with a Faustinians type story where our Faust character type is trying to get out of the deal he made with the devil. Or the devil's sitting back and watching what's going to happen next, because he's like, well, you got yourself into this. So Pocus Hocus is at 5,092. They're already funded. They're at 180 backers, 11 days to go. So we can help them push over the top and maybe even double their money, because double the money is always a good place to be for any Kickstarter, because now you're in a place where you can get comfortable. Anytime you double your money, you can get a little more comfortable. It doesn't mean you're where you need to be. It just means you're a little more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's see what else we got here. We have, oh yes, this is a movie, and actually talk about it for a minute. It's where are you? Here we go. It's Cynthia Rothrock. Tongue-tied. Rothrock. Of course, classic kung fu starlet. She's gotten together a couple of people to create this movie. She's trying to get it funded. They are already funded at $1,062.600. I am totally gone here.
$162,000.
220 backers, 34 days to go. They're doing very well. That means that she can actually get this movie out there, film it, all the beautiful stuff. Of course, we know that we do the Urban Action Showcase here, and we love our Kung Fu brothers and sisters. So why don't you go support a nice Kung Fu movie like we used to love in the 70s, and enjoy Kung Fu again, like a nice little movie. There you have it, folks. I think the only other thing to showcase is, some people ask me, how can I help you guys out, Ralph? Of course, there's the Patreon for Bit and Apple TV, but then there is my own vocal page, if I can find it. There it goes. And if you guys have ever wanted to see some of my writings, you can go to the vocal page. As you read through the vocal page, it actually helps me out, because the more people read through it, the more money I actually make. Or you can always leave a tip. That's all up to you guys. But if you actually want to see some of the stuff I've written, and I'm trying to put some more stuff up there so you guys can see it. Only problem is this needs to be a little longer than my short stuff that I usually write. And that's why I'm trying to get my own book published of shorts, so you guys can check them all out. There you have it. There's the vocal. Go check it out. And I think that's it for me. What do you have, Mr. Nat? Oh, there we go. Of course, we're going to talk about Flushmallow. Because somebody doesn't have to talk about it.
Go. Yes. There we go. Go. This is how we do things here. Yes.
All right, so stall a little bit for me so I can get over to Flushmallow, because I know she's on the side going, I don't want you to show me.
No, she's sleeping.
Oh, she wants to sleep? All right, Floof. So now that you're asleep, here we go, folks. I will show you Flushmallow right now. She's an amazing artist. You guys need to go check out her stuff. It is just beautiful art. There we have it. This is all her work. She does amazing pieces. Go follow Flushmallow on Instagram and check out all the beautiful stuff she does. And of course, you remember that she helped our pal Bitsy Tandem out doing her pins here that were a combination of Pokemon and that game that I always forget the name of.
Genshin.
No, it's not Genshin. Of course it's Genshin. There you have it. Genshin and Pokemon. She does a great job. She's a great artist. Go check her out. Go follow her. Support your local artists, because somebody has to. Come on.
And you should totally check out a certain creator called Shadow Rabbit Clay Guy.
Oh my God!
Louis Schaefer. I believe he was at a con last weekend, and he's a really cool guy. He makes stuff out of clay and wax with his hands, and he does it right in front of you. He's a really cool guy. I do have an issue with him in that he actually thinks that steamed burgers are better than charcoal grilled burgers, and that's
very specific. Only the royalty of steamed burgers with them little baby onions on them, man.
No. Okay, it's not 4 a.m. You don't just wake up one day and you go, man, you know what I want? A steamed burger.
You want a belly
Who
bomb.
wakes up and says they want a steamed burger?
Man, White Castle is for the true of heart, you know, and the fearless of waste receptacles. Anyway, hi Rob.
Hi, how you
That's
doing?
awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Pal Shadow Rabbit does fantastic pieces. He makes your dreams into reality. Commission Shadow Rabbit today, and he will make your dreams come true. At least clay figure wise.
Celebrity
And
match.
I just saw you
exactly.
so
He
long
does
wanted to say
amazing
howdy.
work. Look at that. I never get enough of Shadow.
I don't know, man. If he starts telling me that he wants steamed burgers again, I'm gonna get all hands.
I haven't met too many burgers I didn't like. Don't worry.
That is true. I have never met too many burgers I didn't, as we can tell.
Right.
Oh man. So there you have it, folks. This is us. We are Apple Bites or Apple Teenies. And you've just heard from Rob himself talking about his beautiful book, Wolf. Wow. Wolf Night or Night Wolf. There we go. That's why it sounded weird to me. I'm like, it's not Wolf, it's Night Wolf.
There's a wolf in there. There's a lot of wolf happening.
Well, if you like to wolf out and get yourself a nice little stuffy that you can hug and enjoy, then go enjoy Night Wolf. Because Night Wolf looks fantastic. The art is great. The writing is beautifully there. You need to go check it out. Anything else you guys need to say before I put the button and the other thing happens that doesn't happen on my Written Rich show?
Hey Lou, pull my finger. Oh,
Oh my God.
that hurt.
See you, folks.
Tonight's special video was brought to you by the Izzyverse, as well as Nerds of the Round. Comics by the Best. Indie Art Show. Random conventions around New York City. The inability to stop this from happening. Terror. Fear. Contemplation of previous life choices. Luftschmallow. Shadow Rabbit Clay Guy. Ice cream sandwiches. And macaroni and cheese.
You know,